Okay, how many of you are watching Los Olvidados in 35mm on the big screen for the first time? Hands up. Wow, it's so exciting. This is going to be amazing. You know, what can you say? Bunuel, like, you'll hardly hit a film list of greatest directors of all time that Bunuel's not in the top. This kind of invents his career. When you think of Bunuel, it's really this period on. He's 50, so he loses a couple decades in there. He's working in and around film. I don't think there was a revolution in Spain. He was in Paris. He came to the U.S. for a while. He worked on dubbing. He worked at the MoMA for a while. It's really amazing. He goes to Mexico in the later 40s. And we'll talk about it with this Charles. He knows more about everything than I do. But I'm just building up to what happens in this film. He'd worked on a couple films, and then it all comes together in this film you're about to see. I think you have to think neo-realism is in the air. You know, Rossellini and everything that's going on in Italy, De Sica, Zavattini, Shoeshine, Bicycle Thief. That's very much kind of in vogue. So I think they get this film made because of that. Hey, we'll do one of those films. But of course, Bunuel, being forever the surrealist, he's from the surrealist school. He's along with Dali and a few others, he's one of the symbols of that whole period in Paris. He can't help but kind of go beyond neorealism, and he goes to Freudianism. I mean, dreams and movies go back a long way.
Yeah.
But you have to hand it to Bunuel. He probably did it best, because most dreams and movies, they're so obvious. So, like Hitchcock didn't pull it off. No one. It's a very surreal movie. It's breaks a lot of rules, and I think what got him in trouble. It was attacked at the time. He literally said a woman came at him with her nails and tried to scratch his eyes out in Mexico. He's in Mexico City. I think the intelligentsia, the upper classes, they didn't want to see this and think it was their country. But Bunuel, he just couldn't help himself. He had no, I think the surrealist in him he was allergic to sentimentality. He couldn't, no mythologizing, no fantasy, which I think people were sort of used to. If it was a Soviet film of the period, you would show this kind of degradation, and then at the end, the young men would get with the program and become good citizens because they, whatever. That doesn't happen here. And then this film, and he reels off one of the greatest decades in film history. Bunuel from 50 to 60 in Mexico is just an incredible period. And keep in mind, this is kind of a studio-ish environment in Mexican cinema. He had super low budgets. He said I think he shot films in usually 18 to about 22 days. I think this was somewhere around 20 days. He said he never spent more than 4 days editing a film. So these films are very, that was just his own genius, but he's taking very little means and making something really beautiful and kind of incredible here. And, you'll see for yourself, and we'll be up after to talk about Bunuel. And this film, it's participatory. I don't, it's not a lecture. It's we want to hear your ideas and how you're affected by this film. 65 years later, one of the most influential films, I think, ever. Everybody's still affected by it. You'll see other films you've seen over the years that wouldn't have existed without this film. And it's as powerful today as it was then, I'm sure. So this film, when it came out in Mexico, like I alluded to in the introduction, he got a lot of resistance, and no one wanted to see this movie. And then it got into Cannes. It won a big award at Cannes. I mean, he was a name, especially in France. But they kind of wondered where you've been all these years.
Where we've been the last 20 years.
Yeah, which is a great story, but it's oh wow, and from Mexico, here shows up.
Right.
Bunuel's working in Mexico. So he wins Best Director at Cannes. It becomes kind of a sensation, and then it gets distribution. It plays for a long time in Mexico and worldwide. And there was a nice delay there, too. I think he had already shot his next movie, Susanna. I think, because there was
right.
like a big lag time between
Yeah.
no one liking the film and then it winning awards, getting international, and then it was okay. Then Mexico kind of embraced it to whatever degree. And they named it, like in France, it has the name, you know, every country has a different title. He hated the French name. It was like, pity them, or please pity them. And Bunuel was like, oh, no way. But he kind of liked the American title. The Young and the Damned.
The Young and the Damned.
He was okay with that one.
Yeah.
But please pity them was not his vibe. He's reinventing himself. Like, it must have been weird to work with actors and to tell a story in a feature length. You know, heard he read an article about they found a 12-year-old boy in a trash heap. You know, the ending of the movie. Yeah. And I think he just must have imagined the last few weeks in the life of that young man. That boy, you know, so this is kind of working backwards. Let's face it, does every, I mean, I'll give a little pass to the headmaster, the principal at that thing, but other than that, does every adult in this movie just suck? I think so. Yes, I saw this in 1982 at the River Oaks Theater in Houston on a double feature. Get this.
Wow.
The teen double feature rebellion of Over the Edge. That's inspired programming. It's an inspired double feature for those of you who know Over the Edge.
Yeah, for sure.
The American kind of suburban version of this. That's not as bleak, but pretty bleak for an American film. Yeah. That's why, you know, they had a similar fate too. I think Over the Edge was no big hit at the time either. But you got to admire any film that just goes all the way with it. Yeah, because for all his, he's a great bad guy.
Yeah,
I will. But, you know, if you have a heart, he's an abandoned kid. He never knew his mom. He's not a great guy or anything, but he's, you know, he's still,
in a way,
he's a product. But, I mean, he's a victim too, you know, if you look at it. You know, that's probably, you know, that's Bunuel's probably politics.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's
like, he's a bad guy. It's not just like he's robbing people. He's actively, sadistically...
Yeah.
You know, the legless man, he kicks his thing, like, what does that accomplish? You know, he's a bad guy. You know, he's older than those other guys, more mature, and they fall under his... Well, this film influenced, let's say, Polanski, you know, it influenced multiple, it's still influencing people. I mean, this film, it's always a mystery, this film. I've seen it a bunch, as have you, and I still see things I've completely forgotten. Like, some films you see and you really know. You know every scene, you know where it's going. This one unfolds kind of like a dream. It just sort of... And I forget so many beautiful little details. You know, Bunuel was just the master of the 82-minute film. You know, the 85-minute film. Like, he's just the brevity. I don't know. I think he and Bresson are my favorites in that way.